Backyard wrestling. You know, to be honest, I don't have a whole lot to say about this game right here. This game was actually released back in 2003, and come to think of it, 2003 was actually a good time for it to be released. You see, wrestling has always been popular pretty much, so naturally a lot of people want to be a part of wrestling. Now, not just be a fan and spectate, but to actually wrestle, and want to get involved in the business. Wrestling, like all other things that can make you rich and famous, it just seems to be damn near impossible to succeed. Even if you do everything right and you are the perfect wrestler for any company out there, you still only have a really slim chance of actually making it. But a lot of people really want to be involved. Hence, they do their own backyard wrestling. Now, since hardcore matches like tables, ladders and chairs seem to be the most popular kind of matches, that's pretty much what people try to emulate. As a result, this has caused a lot of people to get seriously hurt. At backyard wrestling, it did gain its own popularity in the late 90s and early 2000s. Why the late 90s and early 2000s? Well, that's really easy to explain. In fact, it can be summed up in just 2 words. File sharing. You see, back in the old days, there was no YouTube. What you had to do, you had to download a program, a file sharing program, and you can search other people's computers for the files they had, and you can download them, and it'll download them from multiple people's computers, blah blah blah. That was file sharing. That's all we had back then, basically. And this is actually where I saw my first backyard wrestling clips. Now, back then, the backyard wrestling clips were only a few seconds long, but what it showed in those few seconds were the point where people seriously got hurt, and this kind of gave wrestling a bad reputation, which this game pathetically tries to address, but I'll get to that later. So the question is, does backyard wrestling, the game, actually represent what backyard wrestling is all about? Let's take a look and see. Backyard Wrestling was published by iDose. The menu looks pretty average. There's actually a jukebox option, which I have not really seen before in a wrestling game. And for what it's worth, it's actually pretty cool. The jukebox allows you to see all the licensed songs this game has, and there are quite a few songs to choose from. At least a lot more than I expected there to be. Seriously, how much did it cost to license a song in 2003? The difficulty goes from normal difficulty to porn star difficulty. Very funny. The media room is about what you would expect. You can watch all the videos, but you have to unlock them, and you can actually see what the moves will look like in this game. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's check out the gameplay. The match options are basic, which isn't always a bad thing. You select your character, the environment, and then you start the match. Booyah. So, what is the actual gameplay like? Initially, it doesn't look that bad. You see angles of the stage you're in, and even little details like somebody having a barbecue, fixing a car and stuff. You got your intro for each wrestler. They have a few words before the match, kind of like attitude.
Prohibition is back. About to put your face in the grass, baby.
The controls are actually pretty easy, but after playing for a few minutes, if that, you'll start to notice some things. First thing is that the controls do feel a little bit stiff. Just a little bit stiff. It's not really that bad. But what is bad is the collision detection. That can be pretty damn bad at times. So the collision detection can make you miss out on moves that you really should have performed, which can be kind of frustrating. Your opponent, the CPU, is not too bad, but it can be a little annoying. For instance, the CPU, when they pick up an object, they will always throw it. I don't get that. Performing big jumps isn't always straightforward. I climbed a treehouse, I tried to jump off, I just fell on the ground. And that didn't even hurt my character, he landed like it was nothing. But when you do perform a big move, it is kinda cool to look at. Oh yeah, there are these words that keep popping up which kinda gets annoying. Like punch drunk. It doesn't seem like a big problem at first, but when it pops up for like the 10th time, you get kinda sick of it. On the plus side, there are a lot of weapons to choose from. There's also a lot of blood, but I think the main problem with the gameplay is that it just comes off as too cartoonish. Now I know it's a video game, but still you think of violence when you think of backyard wrestling. You don't necessarily think of slapstick comedy. Well, depending on which video you watch. Still, slapstick comedy is a lot what the gameplay looks like. Yeah, there is a lot of blood to make it look more real, but in fact sometimes there is actually a bit too much blood. that comes off your character. It's never ending, and you don't see a sign of it on the ground. After the match, my guy was all covered in blood, which actually looked pretty cool. But my point still stands. You can put cartoonish sound effects in there, and they will fit in perfectly. Overall, the gameplay is not that great, but it is easy to control, and it is very playable. The problem is that it just gets old. I mean, it gets old real quick, which seems to be the problem people have with this game. But still, let's move on.
Now, let's talk about the Creator Wrestler mode.
Yep, this has a Creator Wrestler mode. Is it any good? Well, you get 5 options, yay. 3 of those options lets you assign moves. So really you got 2 options to decide what he looks like. You put in your name, you choose a model, and this is where the disappointment only goes downhill. Hell, you choose a body in which there are 7 distinct pre-arranged looks, and then you choose a costume you want for each body. All the costumes in each body selection all basically look the same. The difference is very superficial. Yeah, this is bare basic. It's laughable, really. You're not creating anything, you're just picking a model. This Creator Wrestler mode should be called Choose a Pre-Made Wrestler, because that would be more accurate. Well, some people believe that it is a create mode because you can choose the moves. Not really. You can choose a certain style, then you choose 4 moves and 4 slams. The problem I found with this is that I see the name, but I don't know what the move really looks like. Why? It's because of the name. Yeah, the name gives you an indication of the move is going to be, but it's really vague, and there is no preview to see any of the moves right then and there. Creator Wrestler is awfully basic for a wrestling game of its time. This came out nearly the same time as Here Comes the Pain, which had an awesome Creator Wrestler compared to this. But comparing this game to Here Comes the Pain would be horribly unfair, so there's no point.
Season mode. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean, talk show mode.
Yeah, that's right, talk show mode. As you can see, well, before I get to the talk show, as you can see, you actually have to work your way up locations by beating wrestlers. Yay, kinda like a gauntlet, not really original. But wait a minute, what does this have to do with a talk show? Well, this, apparently...
Welcome to the show. Today's topic is backyard wrestling, the scourge of our nation's youth. These backyard wrestlers are beating each other brain dead with light bulbs and barbed wire. Why? We'll explore this violent phenomenon by talking to people whose lives have been affected by backyard wrestling. Let's meet our first guest, Wendell. So what's the problem?
Backyard wrestling, that's the problem. My brother's friends knocked me to the damn barbecue, and I'm not even trying to wrestle. I work for a living. I just ruined it. And I've got grill marks on my face.
Oh my God. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll be right back.
Was that supposed to be entertaining, or is this a parody of a talk show? Or is this game actually trying to preach? Preach. As in telling the people that like backyard wrestling that backyard wrestling is stupid and is for stupid, dumbass, mouth-breathing morons. No one really plays a game to have opinions shoved in their face. Again, this could just be a parody. I really can't tell. So I beat all the wrestlers in this location, only to have a new location with even more wrestlers that I have to beat. By this time, I actually lost all faith in the talk show mode, so I switched it off.
Overall, this game didn't receive the worst feedback. In fact, the feedback in general was that this game was okay. Not that I agree, obviously, but still, this game was good enough to warrant a sequel. Yeah, that's right, this game sold enough copies that around a year later, boom! Backyard Wrestling 2 was released. Now surely it can only get better, right? Let's take a look.
Well, right off the bat, this game seems pretty much the same. Although they do have bigger names on this game. The options still look very basic. I mean, you have a number of video packages. Yeah, another yay. According to the selection screen, you have about 30 wrestlers to choose from. Some are locked. You got levels to choose from this time, and I can happily say the levels are a lot more better than the first game, which is obviously a good thing.
But this is the most critical part. What is the actual gameplay like?
Well, again, I'm happy to say the gameplay is actually improved. The controls may still feel a little bit stiff, but not quite as stiff as the first game. The gameplay feels like it is actually paced a bit better. The graphics have improved a little bit. The collision detection does seem to be improved. These upgrades are good, but they are only minor upgrades. Minor upgrades. If you don't have the controls and the gameplay in the first game, you will not exactly be thrilled with the gameplay about this game either, despite its minor enhancements. I do say, the Jukebox is quite decent. It is pretty decent and it has a pretty decent amount of songs to choose from. And you can choose whatever song you want to play, hence it's called Jukebox. Seriously, I wonder how much they spent to license all those songs. Because they got some fairly big artists in there. This game actually has a creative wrestler as well. Is it any better than that joke of a creative wrestler from the first game? Yeah, it's improved considerably. I mean, seriously, it's basic, but still, hell, it has so much more options to choose from. And it actually feels like you're creating a wrestler. But still, you have to take it for what it is. It is still basic. Speaking of creating a wrestler is the only way you can play career mode. I sure as hell hope they can do something better than a talk show mode. A new show! I see. You know what, this is actually a lot better. My god, there is actually a story. News, literally a news story. Backyard Wrestling has pulled into town and you can participate and the winner gets $1 million. The media is covering it and is making it look bad. This is already way better than the first game. They are making Backyard Wrestling look like a spectacle, which is what it is. Look, they actually pour more effort into these cutscenes. It actually is a career mode. You can go to places, you fight, you earn money, and you buy stuff at the shop. An actual career! Now they try to give you variety with these missions. Missions are not particularly interesting. They just give you a bit more money. You can only do certain things based on what mission you choose. Like you can only block moves, or only do grapple moves, or only kick and punch, etc. So you do your mission during the fight, and after you do your mission, you finish your opponent off by kicking their ass. You don't have to do the missions. You can simply kick their ass and earn money that way. But still, it does give the career mode some variety. But despite everything I've just said, there is no good reason to play the career mode. I mean, just look at the shop. It's just some crappy accessories that no one gives a damn about, and some videos to buy. But those videos cost $1,000 per video. I only made 69 bucks for one match. No way do I want to play the game that much for just one video. No way. That's it. That's all I can see at the shop. Seriously, that's it. So career mode, despite being much better than the first, in fact, the premise for career mode isn't that bad for this kind of game. It ultimately fails, because the gameplay is just too boring to play that much. Especially to play this game for the items that just wouldn't be worth it, even if the gameplay was awesome enough to play this game for countless hours on end. What a shame.
Final thoughts, well, both of these games suck. I mean, it's got the blood, it's got the moves, the levels, the music, and the wrestlers. Heck, these games even have the right kind of atmosphere to them. It's just basic as hell. I mean, then again, what was I expecting? Of course, it's basic. It's just backyard wrestling. It's not an RPG. So overall, it's really just the gameplay that lets it down. Yeah, it comes across as cartoonish violence, but you know, it does have cool moves and some kind of cool distractions to see. Kinda. Hell, it's a video game adaptation of backyard wrestling, so of course it's not going to be exactly like watching the real thing. I guess the problem with these games is that when you play it, it just becomes old real quick. And I mean real quick. A lot of the comments that I've read, people have gotten over this game just playing the very first match. Hell, I've even read comments about people returning this game the very same day they bought it. So unlike professional wrestling, backyard wrestling doesn't have enough material for game designers to work with to keep it interesting. And as a result, you get these games. This has been another review. Make sure to comment, rate, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, like on Facebook, and do all the stuff like everyone else tells you to do. Thank you for watching. That's been my review. Adios. Finally, this review's over. Doorbell. What do you know? It's a wine box with approximately no wine. What a shock. Oh shit.
Premiumbeat.com.
You can stop asking me now.